Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, welcome to another episode of the Chaps Chat Cats, a part of the Hoops Crew Media Network. My name is Jake, and I'm joined in the virtual studio by two equally hairy, bearded chaps. Sambo, Johnny, how are we?
Good.
I don't know that we're equally hairy.
I was going to
bearded.
say,
I think John has the advantage with the facial hair, and I'm making up with the mane. maybe we are equally hairy overall. A similar amount of hair total.
Yes. I think we would easily have pretty much the entire, you could combine every talking head and analyst currently working the mainstream footy media circuit. You could combine all of their collective follicles, and the three of us would single-handedly have them all covered for quantity of hair.
they're too neat and tidy. They're too clean cut. Where's the mop of hair? Where's the scraggly beard?
Right.
Well, also they're a lot of them are a bit older, so like in the next 5 to 10 years, we may also not have that much hair between us.
Use it while you've got it, folks.
That's right.
Spend it while it's there to
Let
be
it
spent.
flow.
Tonight. That's right. On tonight's episode, we are diving. We're diving, chaps, into a recap. That is the Cats v Demons, not Cats v Ds. The Cats v Demons round 1 recap episode. I don't know how I want to describe it in a phrase. Was it a gut punch? Was it sickening? Was it frustrating? Was it, somewhat pleasing? I don't know. We'll get into all of it. We're going to recap it here on the show tonight. And then for the extended part of the show on Patreon, which you can access now with a 7-day free trial, we're going to look back at our Patreon match predictions, see who got closest to the pin, and we are also going to take an early look ahead to North Melbourne. We've had a little bit of a look at the North v Lions game. I've got some stats that stuck out to me, so we'll have a look there. Go on over, start your 7-day free trial. But before we get into that, chaps, there's one more piece of business we've got to attend to, and that is a joyful piece of business. That's right. We're saying a massive thank you to our brand spanking new media network sponsor here on the Hoops Crew, and that is Cyril Cook Florist. They've been in Geelong since 1915. That's longer than the Cats have been the Cats, chaps. We would have been the Chaps Chat Pivotonians or something, but before 1923, I believe it was. So 1915, Cyril Cook set up down in Geelong. You can visit their website, www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au. That's Cook with an E. You can get them on the phone, on the old shoe phone, 035 222 2244. And it's also worth noting that if you find yourself wandering down, toddling on down to shop 11 Leather Street, Breakwater, to the actual location, and you mention, hey, the Hoops Crew sent me here, you get 20% off your next in-store visit. 20% off, chaps. That's not bad. $1 in every 5. 20%. That's mathematics, son. So yes, please support the businesses that support us, Cyril Cook Florist. We thank them massively for their support. Now let's jump in, chaps. There's a lot to get to. A disappointing result. I don't know. Well, let me run people through it. Let's rewind back through how this game played out, and then I'll let you chaps dissect it and sort of chew over how it unfolded and your thoughts behind maybe why it unfolded like it did. This game was played down at Kardinia Park on Saturday evening, 7:15, and it unfolded thusly, chaps. The Cats they probably had the better of it to start with. The first 2 goals of the game, in fact, the first 3 scores of the game, Nina Morrison at the ready after 2 minutes, 39 seconds, a behind to Michaela Bowen after 5.5, and then a goal to Michaela Bowen, followed by one of the best little celebrations that we've seen so far this season, all women's. The Cats had a 4th score, a rush behind. They were up 14-0. You can't keep a quality side down for long. Melbourne, via the boot of Kate Hoare, twice in the space of 1.5 minutes, reduced the gap to just 2 points at the first break. Geelong leading 14-12. The Cats, after Melbourne missed via the boot of Blythen Mackin after 2 minutes 20, the Cats kicked truly. Rachel Kearns, a give and go, and she went bang from about probably 35 out, I would say, maybe 40. I don't know. A big goal for the Irish halfback. Rhiannon Watt narrowed the margin by a single behind, but that was the final score of the first half as Geelong turned for the Sheds up 3-2-20 to 2-2-14. The Cats extended their lead. Jackie Parry, after 4 minutes and 1 second in the third quarter, it was out beyond 10 points. We thought, oh, this is a chance to run away with it. Melbourne kept coming. Grace Beasley dragged it back by a behind before a goal to Kate Hoare, her 3rd of the game, pulled it back towards that sort of 1-goal margin. The Cats kicked it out via the boot of Kate Kenny, who was on the spot. Kenny on the spot to jam home her first goal in AFLW footy. But the Demons responded again. They kicked the next 2 via the boot of Sinead Goldrick and Blythen Mackin. I think it's Blythen. Blythen. And that gave the Demons the lead right before the 3-quarter time break. The D's took a 5-4-34 to 5-2-32 lead. The last quarter was a bit of a rip snorter. It was back and forth. It was tough. It was tight. Aisling Maloney added a behind. Jackie Parry added a behind. Scores were all level after 5.5 minutes of the final term before Eden Zanker gave the D's a goal lead after 7 minutes. 2 behinds pushed that to 8 points. The Cats grabbed one back via the boot of Jackie Parry late after Melbourne made a very silly decision not to give the ball straight back to the umpire for a ball up. Jackie Parry steadied the nerves and kicked truly, and they had a chance inside the last minute. They forced the ball forward. They just could not find that possession, that mark that would lead to a goal to give them the win. And our Cats fall short, 6-6-42 to 6-4-40. Sambo, I'll flick to you first here. Was it just me, or were there some echoes of the prelim final against the Lions? I know I felt very frustrated in a sort of a similar way. What were your sort of first initial takeaways?
Yeah, there was a lot of frustration. Don't want to get into the the officiating because we always try not to too much, but and to be completely fair, like I'm sure it was both ways, and I think part of it, excuse me while I mute briefly that. Oh, it didn't even mute anyway, so you had to hear me wrestle with the microphone. I don't know what that sounded like. Sorry if that was a horrible noise.
I didn't even
No,
hear anything.
it muted. It muted
Oh.
on our end.
I did. Oh, good. It didn't tell me I was muted, which is terrifying. You know, you
I
never
thought you-
want inconsistency with whether you're muted or not.
I thought you just had to let one rip or doing a big burp. So
Oh no,
It's fine.
you know I wouldn't mute for that.
that's true.
In fact, Jake, maybe check the start of this episode because I did burp and I was like, I don't know if I burped during when it's muted during the intro or when it's not.
I didn't hear you burp,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Yeah, it's always a classy way to start the show.
It is.
So what I was trying to say before I realized that my microphone was pointing more towards my collarbone than my mouth was that, like, I think some of the officiating, I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to complain about it, so I'm just going to try my best to move past it by saying that I think the umpiring is a little different in the W compared to the M, and I think some of this is just teething pains with sort of gelling back with the way it's run. I think they let things go a lot more. And so if that's the case, then that's the case, and it's hopefully equal for all. But yeah, I felt like there was a lot of a lot of sitting on the couch with my arms spread, it's in disbelief.
Mm.
But I so there was that level of frustration. There was also, I think, obviously frustration with the result. Like, it really felt like our game to win. Um, no diss against Melbourne. They did very well to just kind of ride our momentum and never let us get too far ahead, and then put themselves in a real prime position. Heading when they took the lead right before the final term, you kind of thought this is just such a perfect, yeah, a perfect way. If you're
Yeah.
in Melbourne's camp, a perfect way to head into the final term. You've taken the lead that you can now try to
Yeah.
control or just add to a little bit. You can go into your camp and discuss it and change things as you see fit, based on the fact that you're now not wrestling from behind. So yeah, that was a bit of a feeling of uh fatality for me. That final quarter was
Mm.
a little bit. I was feeling a little fatalistic, and that
Mm.
we probably were going to struggle to turn it around just with that perfect situation that Melbourne got into. Um, but I think there was, I think our intensity and our pressure early on was really good. It was not only red hot, but it was targeted and it was clinical. We laid some really good
Mm.
tackles. We didn't crowd the player, didn't crowd the ball. I felt like that waned a little bit towards the back end of the game, that our intensity dropped, and the efficiency of that intensity also dropped, as we've talked about before. The concept of knowing
Mm.
whose turn it is to tackle, whose turn it is to go for the ball, whose turn it is to fill up space, whose turn it is to follow the option, rah rah rah. I
Mm.
felt like that got a little, not terrible, not really bad, but it certainly wasn't at the level that it was for the first half. I thought, um, and also, I'd like to get into positives too, because there's a lot of positives. But just while we're airing our general feelings, the other things that come to mind are that I felt like there was even though we were so ferocious, there was these weird moments of timidness that kind of popped up amongst this ferocity, where players, it almost seemed like maybe it comes from tackling. Like, we obviously looked like we wanted to tackle. Like, tackling was, we were there to
Mm.
tackle and make them stick. And so it sometimes looked like we were timid and too afraid to go in. And I'm wondering if we're so focused on tackling, in a split second decision, people, like our players, were rathering them to get to it first, so we could lay the tackle
So
instead
we
of
can
hitting the
tackle.
yeah, instead of hitting the ball. And which could happen just psychologically if you focus so hard on pressure and
Sure.
tackling. You could be like, all right, I'm ready to tackle, and not grab the ball. And that looked like it happened probably a dozen times, I thought, across the duration
Mm.
of the game, where you just went, oh, okay, like that felt like that was a ball to be picked up or marked, or even just taken possession of while it was bouncing. Um, and the last sort of just um, you know, mental dump here, the thought I had was just that across the game, and then the reason I didn't feel super confident about clawing victory back once we were down, was I didn't feel like we had a lot of system going inside 50. This could be from the lack
Yeah.
of Chloe Shear. Um, it could be from just a very vast range of experience, and not only experience with the game, but experience with each other, blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't so much that, I think we can talk about the delivery inside 50 as much as, like, a raw, oh, kick, that kick wasn't right. But just the way, less the delivery and the efficiency of the kick, and more just the way we were structuring up in there and the way we were attacking it. We just didn't seem to
Mm.
have any real, like, I mean, the Kearns goal was a great one, but,
Mm.
like, you kind of go, okay, do that a few more times. A little triangle, three, a kick and two hand passes or something, and a shot at goal. Like, I would have liked to have seen more missed shots at goal, even to feel more confident going to that quarter that we had avenues to goal. But instead, it sort of seemed like we were just waiting for players to be brilliant and pull a goal out, which they could do. Credit to them. We have some brilliant players that did some brilliant things, but there just didn't seem to be a whole lot of clinical system going into the forward 50.
Well, good.
But
Marks
yeah,
inside
that's
50, 8 marks to Melbourne, 2 marks to the Cats inside 50. So yeah,
Wow.
that stat backs up
I
what you're saying there,
I
Sam.
guess I was talking to someone at work and I said I think we'd be lucky to have taken 4. So I was optimistic even to have gone maybe 4. So yeah, but over to you, John. I've
Yeah,
vented a lot, but as I said, let's get into the positives after we've had a bit of a clinical
yeah.
talk about it.
It was just one quick note. Commentary team pronouncing Kern's name. Is that how you're meant to pronounce it? Cairns?
I don't know. I think there's about must
'Cause
be about 4 players out there with a similar name because I
yeah,
Kearns.
the there was
Cairns.
only
Cairns.
the one guy who was saying it,
Yeah, right.
and the other commentators, whenever she had the ball or whenever they're talking about it, did not say Kearns. They were just, like, too afraid
Mm.
to say in case they said it wrong, and he was just saying Kearns. It sounds so weird. It's like, that's not how you say your name unless it is. It's interesting. But, anyway, that aside, yeah, it's definitely a disappointing loss in terms of just not being able to get the victory towards the end. Um, and as Sam said, yeah, it was just one of those games where they just there were moments where they should have attacked or where they didn't. And then there was just moments where the bounce of the ball just did not favour us at all. There was too many moments where the cat was like, where I was like, oh yeah, the cat's gonna get this ball, and it bounces either too low, goes between the feet, or bounces completely opposite direction right into the Melbourne player's hand. And I think it was one of the last goals Melbourne got, or one of the last points, where I think Becky Webster was running onto a ball that was like going to bounce perfectly for her, and it just didn't bounce, went straight through her legs. Melbourne player picked it up easy and got around, and I think they either scored a point or a goal, and it was like, it's just one of those nights where they're doing so much so right, everything really well, but they're just not getting that last bit of luck. They're just not getting the luck of the footy when it matters, and that's sort of what it sort of looked like to me, and similar to as what Sam said, like just that attack on the ball wasn't there the entire game. Like the tackling, the pressure, everything that I wanted to see was there. It was just a bit timid, as Sam said. But overall, it's a pretty good way to start the season if we just come short of a pretty exceptional team. I thought Melbourne defended really well. They pressured us really well when they got into the groove of the game, but so did the Cats. I thought it was a really tight, tough contest, and there wasn't much separating it. And the scoreboard says that as well. Very little separating the teams. It's just a shame that we weren't
Mm.
ahead. At the at the end of the game where it mattered. But overall, I was really happy with the performance. I thought there was every player out there played at close to the best. There was still a few hiccups here and there, which you expect after having 9 months off of no football and a very limited pre-season. Not much training going on either because they've all got work as well, so they can't train as much as everyone else. So I think it was a bit of a rusty performance at points throughout
Mm.
the majority of the game. They still all look pretty well ready to get into this season. The standard players you would expect to stand up stood up really well. The Irish girls were absolutely excellent as well. Kate Kenny just burst onto the scene really well and looks really comfortable out there, which is really pleasing to see. And along with Anna Rose Kennedy, I thought her game she did some really good things. Not as good as Kate Kenny did or um, Monty did, but you can see that like the
Mm.
foundations there, the learning curve won't be too steep for her. So there's a lot of positives for the Cats, and it's going to be a really good season. And if this is going to be one of our worst performances, then
Mm.
it's only going to go up from here. I think the ceiling is really high for this team, and they're only going to get better as the season goes on, and they will be a team that I really do think other teams will fear coming up against. Because yeah, we pushed Melbourne. They had to fight really hard to get back into this game, and I just think it was just a bit of luck going Melbourne's way that really won them that game. Apart from that, it was not much in it.
I just on a few points, just first a clarification. Earlier in the episode, Sam used the terms, the refereeing in the W versus in the M. I know sometimes we get some YouTube comments, what is AFLM? And just to clarify for people, AFLW stands for AFL Wonderful and AFLM stands for AFL Magnificent. So just to clear that up for everyone who pops it in the YouTube comments. I thought there were some ways in which we were unlucky. Frustrating ways in which the rules were interpreted. I thought we had such a high variance of interpretation, like from the most cynical interpretations of holding the ball to the most naive. So many times players getting tackled, and I'm not saying it happened just one way or another. As a Cats fan, you obviously sit there, you lose the game, you look at moments, go, why wasn't that a free kick or whatever? But just players being tackled and dropping the ball. And that to me should be holding the ball. This knocked out in the tackle stuff to me is nonsense. If you get tackled and the ball comes out and you didn't legally dispose of it and you had the prior opportunity to have done so, I don't know. Anyway,
Well, wasn't the
let's move past.
the Ash? I think it was Ashling that like was in a tackle and the ball dropped the ball and bounced it and took control of it again and was pinged, but then the Melbourne player dropped the ball and did not take control of it and wasn't pinged. So I was going, is the reason was that just a classic case of like didn't see it, saw it differently, blah blah blah, or was she actually pinged because she took possession again? Like, if she had let it roll, is that knocked out in the tackle? Because it came back to her, that was classed as like a bounce, and so she'd maintained possession for that whole time. They're like, "Oh, she didn't try to get rid of it." I don't know. It was just a weird one where they looked so identical, except that the Melbourne player's ball bounced away from her, and Ashling's bounced back up, and she was able to grab it again. So it was just like, I said I wouldn't get into it.
There was one on Darcy Maloney. Yeah, there was a high contact one that just to me was so obvious where Darcy Maloney went low to win a ball, and
on the top of her
now
head.
she went low and got hit in the top of the head with the other player's midriff. Now I personally don't necessarily think those should be free kicks, but the way that is officiated in every AFL men's game is a free kick. Whether the player who's winning the ball draws the contact or not, it's a free. And then they paid an anyway. Let's move on from that.
We could talk for hours on
points
that.
I wanted to make. Yeah, you could. And look, I know it's a hard job. I get it's a hard job, and we see one angle that they don't get to see, and all that sort of stuff, and it happens faster on the ground than in replay. So let's sort of park that there. And I'm sorry for taking us back into it, but some things that stood out to me. If we talk about on the night, I was very peeved. And people on the pod should know that my experience watching the W is very different to watching the men's. The Cats specifically, because we've had so much success in the men's. I'm very comfortable saying there's a lot of points in the bank with the men's side. So I'm very philosophical when it comes to winning and losing and that sort of thing. And yes, I enjoy it, but the defeats don't hit me as deeply anymore. That's not true of the W when I watch. I was filthy after this loss. I was really, really filthy about it. But I would say there were things that were within our control. Like we can talk about the bounce of the ball or maybe not getting rewarded as much as we would have liked to be for really good tackles. There were some things within our control that I felt we didn't do particularly well. I thought we probably looked like the less clean side, gathering the loose footy. There's so many opportunities where a ball comes to space. Our player is, has a 5-10 meter lead on their opponent and it's on the ground. And it's like, if we just pick this up cleanly at the first or the second attempt, we're away here. We can get an effective disposal. And it was like fumble and fumble and fumble and I'm tackled and it's a ball up. in the stoppage forms. And if you look at how badly they beat us in the stoppage clearances, it was 6-all in center clearances. I think it was 25-17 in the stoppage clearances around the ground. Like, that's a big deal. That's 8 times they got to break away in their favor around the ground. So that was one thing. I didn't think we were as clean. And this wasn't everyone. Some players do it better than others, but there were players there, I think, who normally do handle the ball better, who maybe didn't have their greatest evening. And I thought Melbourne were exceptionally sharp. And just on the clearances, chaps, I personally felt that our ruck selection was a little strange. I like Kate Darby when she can float and do a number of roles.
Mm.
Mm.
I thought Gabby Featherston did some good stuff in the ruck, but Lauren Pearce had 26 hitouts, 17 disposals, a goal assist, and 6 clearances. That's their ruck. We had Amy McDonald have 9 clearances, 9 of our 23 or 24, was it? Clearances. 9 of our 23. They had McNamara with 7, Kate Hoare with 7, Lauren Pearce with 6. I felt like we may have, I don't know. I thought that we got beaten in that area in terms of
Yeah.
the ruck, and it's not
Yeah.
to be negative about Kate Darby or Featherston, but I thought there was a difference.
I agree, and just for the sake of clarity and not, I guess, just complaining, how in hindsight, if we could rewind the clock and have how would you structure this up to prevent that? Is that just a case of them being better than our options in the ruck? Like, I from my point of view, it's how would you have run that ruck situation? Like, I also like Darby when she can float, and from watching Featherston, I would also like her to be able to float. It almost feels to me like Featherston is maybe going to be a natural next step once Darby eventually retires, or so. I feel like having them both was not maybe ideal. But yeah, from your point of view, what could they have done differently selection wise?
And it's hard because we don't get to watch training. So, I should be giving the benefit of the doubt to the coaching group in the same way I do in the men's. Again, it's just that the men's side has got so many credits in the bank that you kind of go, well, they get it right more times than not. I think I really liked when we put Featherston in because she's a danger once it hits the ground. Like, in the same way that, like, when you put Blixarves in the men's, he's a threat when it's in the air, and he's a threat once it hits the deck to either win the ball himself or to apply a tackle. I feel the same about Gabby Featherston. She's got a ridiculous vertical jump, like, just insanely athletic. So then once it hits the deck too, even if she doesn't win the hit out, she's there to be a tackler or she's there to win a clearance. I also would have just and again, I haven't watched training. I would have really liked to see Lily Pearce be given a go. It's
Would have been
tough when you've got a smaller team lineup. Like, you can't go too tall, but yeah, I don't know. I'll be interested to see how we approach that. Like, I personally, the way I feel about Darby is that she's sort of a utility player. I don't see her as like a genuine number one ruck. That's why we brought Erin Hoare in last season. It was why you're trying to develop Olivia Fuller, players like Kalani Schooler, have floated around the team. I think Darby is a great number 2 ruck option to give someone a spell. So I'd be sort of keen to see what Lily Pearce looks like. Only because I think you can use Darby in a variety of ways. Like, I don't think you've gone too tall if you have Darby and someone else, because Darby can go and play back, or she could float forward.
Or do ruck as well. Like, she can do
Exactly, she can
anything.
pinch
So, I reckon they should bring Lily Pearce in as well next week. Why not? But it's only a short season, only 10 games. So I think after this week's ruck performance, I think they probably will. It's said, it was definitely one area that we lacked in this against Melbourne. They really did dominate out of the centre clearances and, well, not centre clearances, but the stoppage clearances and all
Stoppage.
that. So, yeah, it'd
Did you
be
guys both
interesting
think
to
they
see what
did,
the
or am I
Cats
just
do.
drawing? Am I
No,
drawing an
I
unfair
would,
conclusion?
I would,
Hmm.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Just on another thing as well, chaps. It's a frustrating loss because of how much we did right.
Mm.
Like, the disposals are very even. I don't think we overkicked or over handballed it. We basically had the same split as Melbourne, 140-ish, where we have 145 kicks to 113 handballs. They had 147 to 106. We had 35 inside 50s. We scored 6 goals, 4 off that. They had 39 inside 50s. They scored 6 goals, 6. We had nearly 10% better disposal efficiency. Now we got smashed in the hitouts. We lost a significant margin in the clearances, but contested possession were very similar. Uncontested possession was very similar. Marks, tackles, we out tackled them 71 to 64, 12 to 6 inside 50. And it was just like, and Sam, you said something about this, and I'm conscious of the fact you're on a hard out. So,
Mm.
you talked about the entry inside 50, but only sort of mentioned it briefly. Did you have any expanding thoughts on that? Like, obviously with the context that we're missing Chloe Shear, but what was it about the inside 50 entries that you found problematic maybe?
Well, I don't think I necessarily blame it fully on the entries as opposed to the general operating around the 50. That like sometimes it reflected poorly on the 50, it would go too high, it would go too short, blah blah. Like the but sometimes when you're only viewing it from the broadcast, you can't know what's happening to the left of screen, what's happening off screen where the kick is going. And to me, when it came to ground as well, and when we got it in there, it just felt a little bit disorganized, I guess is the way I'd put it. That it didn't feel like even to bring up the Kearns one again, she called it and Snow great. That was really good, but you could tell in that moment that she was absolutely screaming her lungs out to get it back. And it's slipped my mind now who actually hand passed it back to her. I can picture the moment, but I can't picture the player.
Yeah.
Was it
Mm.
Bowen maybe? I can't remember
I
who it was.
think
I
it
want
was
to say it
Bowen,
was
yeah.
either Bowen or Parry.
I
Yeah,
think it was
yeah, but
Bowen.
so you could see, and it was really good. It was all perfect, but you could see that it was labor that Kearns had to shout and say, "I'm here," and then Bowen or Parry, whoever was that, turned and did a double take and looked at me. Oh, I will hit that. Like it wasn't a set play. It wasn't a
Mm.
team awareness of like a 1-2 hand pass and a kick at goal. It was this kind of will. You could feel this will go forward and get through the goal. But and this isn't just to diss coaching or anything, because I'm sure there is plans. The way it looked and felt was that there was no. It was like get it in there, and then just keep shuffling hand passes around and try and slip tackles and move it backwards, and and actually it more often than not ended up in a ball up. I would say most of the time when we went inside 50. I don't know what the actual stats on that percentage of ball ups
Be
per
great to
inside
know.
50. But it was often a turnover or a ball up. And I think it made me concerned going into the fourth quarter, and it probably got worse in the fourth quarter as well. This crush, this pressure to go, oh my God, we just gotta get one goal at the top. And so instead of taking a breath, backing the system, knowing where you've got to be, it's like all the players just wanted to be involved in that. But no one to come out of that successfully, you do also need basically a Chloe Shear, a player that wants to rip that ball away from from a teammate. Even if you're all on the ground in the pack trying to get it in possession, Chloe Shear is the player who doesn't care who's got a hand on. She'll rip it out and have a snap. And it felt like those two avenues that we could have got to go a better structure, us more, making better options, making more runs, drawing players, creating space, moving it around and kicking a goal, or someone that was just. And this is that I thought Scott was in flashes last season. I don't think she showed this, but you need that just cutthroat alpha player that will just tear it out and have a crack. That's the other way to get a goal from these high pressure sort of we need goal scenarios. And I just didn't think we presented either of those. A clear tactic and strategy to goal, or a player that was just going to put it on their back.
Yeah, no, for sure. I
Yeah.
think there's definite sense in that. I'd love to go back. I wouldn't love to go back and rewatch it, but it would be interesting to go back and watch, who was guarding Aisling Maloney and how, because I
Yeah.
felt like she probably had a frustrated night. Like I
Yeah,
wasn't
which-
frustrated watching her, but I felt that watching her, she looked frustrated. Like
Yeah.
I just don't think it quite fell the way she wanted it to fall.
No,
Yeah, so I don't
yeah,
know
it just
who
didn't.
was defending her or
She just
whatever.
didn't have that same impact, and I think it was due to Melbourne defender playing it, and just the balls inside 50 weren't really to Cat's advantages at most times. It was those high balls that floated a bit too long. And that could have been because of wind or just kicking the ball high and hoping for the best. But yeah, there was those moments where the Cats had a really good look inside 50, were going inside really well, and it just hang in the air. There wasn't those direct kicks like you saw from Melbourne. When Melbourne went inside 50, when Kate Horder got those 2 goals, they were kicked directly at her. Not much hope
Yeah.
for the Cats players. And even the third goal was the same, like very direct kick. So it's similar in the AFLM as well, where sometimes the direct kicks are really good. Other times they're those floating high, long kicks. Like, why don't you just pass to the player that's there? And there was a lot of those moments, as Sam said, where there was a player that was open in a good position and has either kicked it too late or just didn't see them. And also, I think there was also
Yeah.
those few too many moments where a player thought she had more time than what she actually did and just sold themselves into a bit too much trouble, trying to do that little bit too much, which is one thing they're going to have to learn throughout the season, which I think they can. It's not a big thing that's going to be hard to learn and train out of you, but yes, definitely one they'll have to work on. And that, as I said, the disappointing loss, but I think the positives definitely outweigh all the negatives. Like this is, as I said, if this is our worst, then our best is going to be pretty good when we do find our best, when we do click as a team.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's all sorts of things within their within their sort of sphere of control that they can probably look to address and fix, and that's pleasing because if it's
Mm.
intangibles that you're like, I have no idea what you do, that makes it very hard. Sambo, we're going to do this a bit differently tonight. I want to get your votes before you leave, so we might do our votes now, and then Johnny and I can go on and talk about a few players before we hit the Patreon part of the show. Normally we
Sure.
each give our one, each give our two, each give our three, but just fire through yours, Sam, and any thoughts you want to get off before you duck out.
Sure. My one is to Webster. I thought she played a pretty gutsy game. And just was often always about it when there was, when both offensively and defensively. Some of the times when it looked like, because they were so deadly on the counter attack, but some of the times when it looked like they were away, it was her that was in there, not necessarily taking it into mark or something, but just muddying the waters, making sure that they weren't just getting a clean breakaway. My 2 votes to Bowen. Again, gutsy is the word I'd use again. I thought she did some really good stuff. Great goal, great celebration, of course. But I thought she was lucky not to earn more free kicks too. I think she did get three, 3, didn't she? No, she didn't. Three's 4. 1.
One.
All right. Well, she was
One for Michaela.
definitely robbed then. I felt like she should have had, probably 3 or 4 holding the balls. Go her way, but that's how it goes. And my 3 votes go to the obvious choice, Amy McDonald, for just an absolute blinder.
Nice.
Yeah. Love it, Sambo. Thank you
I
for
would quickly
jumping in.
say just I'm sure you guys cover like I would say I thought JCG played her heart out. And the two that were circling around my votes but didn't get in were Gunjaka and Kearns as well. I thought Kearns has shown flashes of where she's going to be over the next few weeks. Sorry to duck off
Love it.
early.
Love it.
Catch you
No
later.
worries. Thanks for jumping in for as long as you could. There he goes.
Cats.
He's
Off he
gone.
goes. Go Cats. Into that great beyond to do
great
whatever
beyond
it
of
is he's gonna
life.
do in the. That's right. There is a life existing out of this podcast studio, though you might not guess it with the amount of episodes we've got lined up to record this week. Everything's coming to a head. We've got all three cat sides left playing. You know,
Oh.
we've got the AFL women, we've got the VFL men, we've got the AFL men. Previews, recaps up the wazoo. Johnny, let's you and I go back and forth then here like we normally
All
do.
right.
Who did you have as your one vote?
Who did I have as my one? I had Zali Friswell. I gave her my one vote. I thought it was a really promising game by her. Just an absolute pressure machine she was. Laid some really good tackles. Got a few good free kicks as well, and just was just a constant presence and annoyance for the Melbourne players, and has just bulked herself up a bit, looking strong, looking fit, and it was a really I thought it was a really good game by her and deserving a one vote from myself. How about you?
Just on that, Johnny. I couldn't agree more. I didn't recognize Zali Friswell to start with.
There was a lot of times I thought it was someone else. I was like, oh no, that's Friswell.
That's Friswell. She has hit the gym. I don't know if she has or not, but I feel like she has. Like, she was, like you said, a bit of a tackling machine. Like, her tackling has lifted season on season. So 2022, there was 2 seasons in 2022. She averaged 2.4 tackles in season 6, 2.7 in season 7. She averaged 3.6 last year, and then 4 tackles this year. I thought I agree. She was definitely on the cusp of my votes, and just to give you an example, maybe too, of where some of that hardball kind of winning stuff is. And I know contested possessions are a bit of a flawed stat because it includes things like ground ball gets, which aren't necessarily contested in the strictest sense. But she averaged 2.3 contested possessions in season 6, 3.5 in season 7, 3.2 in season 8. She had 8 the other night. So she has added this extra element to her game. I always rated her as a great outside player. But yeah, she looked, fit and ready to fire. And as you just said, muscle bound is what I would have said. I did
Muscle-bound.
not
Oh,
recognize
yes.
her. So yeah, I agree with your one vote, Johnny, but I went a different direction. I went one of the obvious choices. Georgie Prasparkas, like, I know she only had the one clearance. She had 5 tackles. She had 21 touches, 368 meters gained. She was untackleable. Like, the amount of times
Really
you
was.
thought, oh, she's going to get grabbed here and brought down. And she just spins and eludes and sways and dips. And suddenly she's in space and she's delivering a deadly kick downfield. I really, really liked her game. She won 12 contested possessions. That was second most behind Amy McDonald. She had 71.4% disposal efficiency, which I think for the way she plays the game, that's reasonably high. Like 71.4%, that's decent given the amount of time
Yeah.
she's kicking long, and in contested situations. So I really enjoyed her game. So she got my one vote. Who was your 2, Johnny?
My 2 was Becky Webster. I thought really good game from her. There was a few little drop marks she had, but I think throughout the game she was just setting up really well across that halfback, being a brick wall early on in the game, just not letting Melbourne get past her that easy. And then transitioned into defence really nicely as well. And like a lot of these players, got the rust off, looking good to pounce into the rest of the season and have a really good, excellent crack at the premiership and every other game. So yeah, good s- starting off point for her, and just looks excellent as she always does, and has some really good moments throughout the game where it was like those 1-2s. Yeah, she'll do a quick pass, make a run around the back, and get it back and launch it inside 50. So yeah, another really excellent game by Becky Webster.
I like that. I went 2 votes to Jackie Parry. Um, now,
Nice.
I suppose the reason being I'm trying to change the way, like, I still find that I get sucked into sort of the midfielders medal thing. Like,
Yep,
that when you're giving
it
your best
happens.
on ground votes, it's really easy just to go, well, the 3 people who had the biggest statistical output, the most tackles, the most disposals, the most clearances. And while there is something to that, I don't feel like Jackie Parry could really play her position any better than she did the other night. Um,
No.
her stat line ends up being 13 disposals, 9 kicks, 4 handballs, 4 tackles, couple of marks. She had 200 meters gained or 199 on those 13 touches, kicked 2 goals, one, also had 2 goal assists. 10 of her possessions were contested. She had 5 score involvements, 4 intercept possessions. I thought she was quite excellent. 1-3 free kicks as well. As I said, so if you play your position that well to a degree where really my only knock on her was probably that she didn't finish the third chance that she had, but I'm trying to think what that was, whether it was a set shot or whether it was a snapping ball that was actually quite difficult. But whatever the case being, um, she played an excellent game. Like
Yeah.
I really can't see her executing much better with given the supply she had. She really did make the most of almost all of her opportunities and also set 2 teammates up. So I gave 2 votes to Jackie Parry. Did you go the obvious direction for 3 votes, Johnny?
Yes. I went Amy McDonald, the obvious choice for the 3 votes. I mean, how could you not? How could you not? That was
Yeah.
just an Amy McDonald game. Like, that was just yeah, it just what we, you know, expect from a player of her absolute class, and yet, everything she does, she still barely gets any recognition from the outside AFL world, but that's the way it is. There's
Mm,
other players on other teams that are struggling that seem to get more notice than her. But you know what? Stuff, and we've got the best player in the game, the best player who's playing at the moment by a long shot. She's just incredible.
yeah. No, she really is. The consistency of
Mm.
Amy McDonald is insane. 28 disposals, 16 kicks, 12 hand passes, 9 tackles, 9 clearances. She led us for tackles. She led the game for tackles. In fact, she led us for clearances with 9. She led the game, in fact, for clearances with 9. She was second most meters gained. I think that's an area she's probably improved. I think if we looked at um, her stats, which I might try and bring up as we chat here to just look at her career progression in terms of meters gained. I feel like um I feel like it's improved.
Yeah,
Is sort of I guess where I'm at with it. So I'm just trying to see if I can. I can here. Let's have a look at her stats. Meters gained. Let's see if my hunch is correct. Has her meters gained improved per game? Yes, Johnny, it has. Her
of
career
course.
average is 235. So it was 123 meters gained in 2020. It was 234 in 2021. It was 194 in 2022. It was 265 in 2022 season B. It was 276 last year, and it's 444 this year. So not only has she steadily begun to average more disposals per game the last couple of seasons, she's also, you know, biting off more aggressive disposals as well. Her time on ground has gone up. She's kicking the ball more than at the start of her career, more than her career average. So, um, Yeah, she's an absolute beast, and I gave her my 3 votes as well. So
Nice.
yeah, she gets the full house from us. 3 votes, 3 votes, 3 votes. Just quickly, Johnny, a couple of
Yes.
players. We'll go back and forth. Let's do a couple each.
Right.
I'll start us off. Then you do one. Snake back to me, and we'll finish there and go into the Patreon section of the show. Just players who maybe were on the fringe of your votes, or that maybe you just had a note on that you wanted to talk about in general. I thought that. Who was I thinking? I do want to talk about Kate Kenny. I thought we saw.
Yes.
I thought we saw a player who is learning the game still. There were moments where
Yes.
she didn't look sure if she should go or she should stay back or she should, is it my turn to tackle or can I bump here? So there were moments where you can see her navigating her way through a new sport. But then I thought you saw moments of, aha, there it is. There was a great mark on the lead where she went up. It was all hands, and she just reeled in this. And look, it's a textbook mark. But my point being, it was a night where some really experienced players dropped textbook marks. But she had this great lead, arms at full extension, plucks the ball out of the air, turns around and delivers a nice kick. She had another moment where I shouldn't say she delivers a nice kick because she delivered a kick. I don't remember how it ended up, but anyway, it was a nice mark. There's another one, a rugby style kick that I think ended up leading to a goal where she kicked it sort of end over end from sort of the center sort of part of the ground and, chaos balled inside an empty 50. And I feel like we might have ran on and manufactured a goal or a scoring chance. I like that. But the thing that stood out to me
Yeah.
that stood out to me when I watched her play Gaelic football was absolute killer instinct around goal. When that ball came loose, she was on it in a flash and just
Yep.
stuck it home. And that was something you saw in a lot of her highlights in and around goal in Gaelic football is if it's loose in her area, she is an absolute apex predator and will score goals. So I think once she gets used to the speed, the flow, the physicality, all of those things, I think she's going to be an absolute ace up our sleeve to go with Chloe Shear, to
Oh,
go with Aisling Maloney. We're going to have an absolutely potent forward line. Who was
definitely are.
who was a player for you, Johnny, that was on the fringe or just someone you got a note on?
Just Georgie Prasparkas. That was a pretty good game by her. I think it was a good start to her season, starting off where she left off last year. And
Mm,
yeah, I think just a unfortunate miss out, but I thought a few other players just did a few things that I liked a bit more. But yeah, she's going to be absolute superstar. Still so young as well, still learning the game and everything. So yeah, she's going to
mm,
be another just once she's very consistent, like Amy McDonald and Nina Morrison. It's got to
mm.
be a really potent midfield to go with a really potent forward line. This team just continues to build so nicely. And then my other one is Michaela Bowen. Yeah, again, unlucky to miss out because I thought she had a really excellent game. Nice goal, great celebration. Could have had 2 goals quite easily. But yeah, like she's similar to a lot of these players are just starting where they finished last year. Really good form. They've come in knowing what they want to do, what they need to do, and it's just about applying that polish. And I think Michaela Bowen is one that can look back on this game and go, "Yeah, I did played your part, did everything you possibly could do to get that victory." So she can definitely hold her head high after this week and help the team get better throughout the rest of this year, which she'll definitely be able to do.
It's cruel because I bet like she seems like such a high work ethic player that you
Mm,
say she can look back and go, I did everything I could do. I bet you anything, purely speculation, that she looks back and looks at those one or two things and she goes, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that. I don't know, just
yeah.
from a million miles away. Sometimes I feel like um I love, like, I love her standards of excellence. I really feel like she's been a massive get for the club, and there's a few players like that. Um, just a quick. I'm going to cheat here and throw in a half a note because we've already talked about Rachel Kearns, but that goal she got was so indicative to me of the confidence she has gained playing this game. That she gave the handball off or the kickoff and ran on, and you heard her bellowing through the effects mic of like, "Give it back to me," kind of thing. I don't know what her exact words, but it was like there was a demand of the ball back, and then it wasn't even like a second thought. It was just like, bang, this is going on my boot and it's going through.
Yep.
And you just rewind to, the first part of 2022, where, she, went at 41% disposal efficiency that season. You know, where she probably struggled. She was giving away nearly 2 free kicks per game. And you look at her this year, in the first game. Now, only 6 disposals. That surprised me. I thought she had a few more touches, but 83.3% disposal efficiency, 2 tackles, 1 free kick for, no frees against, 1 a clearance, and kicked a goal.
Pretty good.
I just think she's night and day, a different and a transformed player. And she's another one, I think, like I was talking about Michaela Bowen driving the standards. I think Rachel Kearns is a player that now she's found her feet in the sport, that I think she can be another person who drives. Kearns. The half a note is just on Anna Rose Kennedy, John. I thought you meant, I'm glad you mentioned her earlier, and I just wanted to sort of add my own little bit of seasoning to this, is just to say what I think you're seeing with Anna Rose Kennedy is a player who actually reads the game pretty well. She had 7 intercept possessions. That was good for equal 4th on the ground. Now, her disposal efficiency was problematic. She went at 37.5%. That was the 3rd worst on the ground behind Shelley Scott and Taylor Harris. But that's a great example of she wasn't alone, and experienced players like Shelley Scott and Taylor Harris, who have played plenty of AFL footy, can also have off
Taylor
nights.
Harris,
what I like
was at 0, but she didn't get much of
Yeah.
the game. She got injured pretty early on. Couldn't handle
and
the
I think
hits, Taylor Harris.
that's well, I think with all the boxing, etc., the body is probably it might be struggling a bit
A
at
bit
times.
tender.
There's that much bandage at times
Oh,
on Taylor Harris. It was crazy. But just to finish on the point on Anna Rose Kennedy, is what I love about her is that she's there. She's identifying where the footy is going to be. I think she has good instincts for reading the play. That was something. She was a great link player when you watched her play Gaelic football. She's not as flashy as an Aisling Maloney, who she played in the same Tipperary team as, but she would so often be that player storming out of halfback or through the middle of the ground and directing traffic and distributing the ball around really cleverly. So I think, like Rachel Kearns, once she finds her feet in the game, I think she's going to be a great fit. I think athletically, she's already a really good fit for the sport. But once she adjusts to the game, and remember, we have to keep in context. This is her 2nd game of football. She debuted in the prelim, so there's massive upside to come. All right, that's it for us on this episode of the Chaps Chat Cats, at least the public part of it. That's right. We're now going to duck behind the Patreon curtain. If you want to come and chat with us more over there, go on over and start your 7-day free trial on the Hoops Crew Patreon. We're going to go and review our Patreon match predictions and take a quick early look ahead to the game against North Melbourne on Sunday. Until then, though, thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for doing us a favor and hitting that subscribe button like you've just done right now. And until next time,
well done.
Go Cats.
Go Cats.